The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you will get to roll call coming up. A lot of venom in the stream about last night's tough one at Illinois. We'll spend plenty of time on Husker hoops, the good, the bad, and the absolute ugly. If you're wearing black and white stripes, we'll get there. 489-1240 or 800-825-5865. Can email the show, Chris at HailVarsity.com. And always follow the show. Can hear it across the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Several stations across the state we're blessed to be carried by. And can find us on the Stream Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Subscribe to that, like that, and give us some feedback. That's where you can contribute in the stream. Also, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. We'll get into Super Bowl week. We've got a bunch of former Huskers that played in the big game in the on-deck circle to join us this week. Matt Rule's going to talk Wednesday. So busy week as things gear up. And one more big moment of football on Sunday. But the here and now is Nebraska basketball and their chase for the dance. And believe it or not, the loss last night actually bumped them in KenPom in net ratings, and they're still, at least as some of the sites that project the field of 68, they still have Nebraska as the last four in. So great effort. I think it'll get looked at with how well they played and what they had to overcome. And you can say you're going to get home cooking, you're going to get jobbed, you're going to get hosed. I mean, that just happens on the road. You got to play above that. I agree with that. There are things Nebraska needed to be better at. They weren't. But there are some things that were not in their control, and they had to overcome anyway. So we'll dive into that. Super Bowl breakdown in hour two. We'll check in with Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, a Monday with Charlie. Get Uncle Charlie's take on the Super Bowl, some spring football thoughts, and I'm sure he was screaming at his TV watching basketball last night. He loves watching BTN. We'll also catch up with former 49er, our dear friend Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFL, our Big Red wrap-up co-host. So that's on the docket. You are fired up in the stream and can join us on the phone lines as well. Anthony is in first as it is time for roll call, our starting five. When it comes to the first five in the stream, plus a few stragglers that complete those off the bench. Mike checks in second, Andrew in at third, Black Hills Brennan four, and the artist formerly known as KG Kids for Life checks in at five, Matthew in at six, and Chuck from Denver seven. Anonymous is in, and Anonymous has some thoughts on last night's hoops. We'll get there. So let's just dive into it. We'll hear from Fred Hoiberg as well in a moment. Our dear friend Rick Pizzo, BTN, is usually not one to make a statement on your dance card, but Pizzo was in full support of Nebraska last night and how things went down against the Illini. Was out at a watering hole with my brother-in-law, Uncle Andy, and the pride of Fairbury, Bill Dolman. And the place was lots of gasps, lots of screams, lots of anger in the tone. And you may have been feeling that watching it at home or out with buddies. Elijah, the rule of thumb is this, and this is kind of an old Tim Miles rule, and this is a lot of coaches. You go back to Coach Nee, you talk to or hear from Roy Williams. You go to coaches, you go into a ruckus road environment, you better be up between that 7 and 11 number as a road team with about 3 minutes left in the game. You better make sure the cushion is a 10 spot. The line going in was 10.5. If you're a Nebraska basketball fan, two things. One, they always had a response. They did not shudder. When Illinois put a run together specifically, they just kept chopping some wood. Illinois came out, hit their first 5 shots. Nebraska got down 47-40 after going into halftime with the lead. So Nebraska took care of the basketball better. Nebraska got destroyed on the offensive rebound side of things, 17 offensive rebounds. Nebraska tried to block out, and they never got many whistles for it. In fact, Illinois just flat out climbed over their back. Case in point, Tominaga getting given piggyback rides and then getting kicked in the head for his trouble in overtime. There's a lot of calls. The rink mast final possession where he gets stripped. Now I know Shannon has an investigation going on, so any further charges. Or I mean, I'm kidding, of course, but listen, that was brutal. That was slow-mo foul against or on Rink Mass. There's a play where Rink's trying to go up under the basket, and he gets hit in the cheek, he gets hit in the arm, and then Illinois knocks the ball out of bounds, and the goon on the baseline still calls it Illinois basketball, which was a joke. A lot of that game was no blood, no foul. Fine, okay? But then don't whistle Sammy Hoiberg for a cheap foul as he gets a steal or at least a tie-up.
That felt like an anticipatory call from the referee.
But they just picked and choose when they were going to anticipate. And, I mean, it was just brutal trying to get to the rim.
And I'm with you. The biggest problem that I had with the officiating, and
you can suck, but suck all game.
Let's be clear. Illinois was on the bad end of some calls too. I think Nebraska got hosed on a hell of a lot more than Illinois, but these refs are bad both ways. But as you kind of said, they were calling it no blood, no foul for much of the game.
But then don't let CJ Wilcher get screwed on a phantom call, no body bump, gets more ball. Don't bail out a game you've let be physical from the get-go.
Yes.
In the last 5 seconds.
And this is my problem.
That was garbage. Nebraska should have had a win at the end of regulation unless Illinois gets an offensive rebound to win it at the buzzer.
My big problem, you remember this. Remember what Underwood got teed up for? And we'll get to Underwood getting teed up because I think that was a strategic play on his part. Strategic play on his part. The referees had that in the back of their mind the rest of the game. But do you remember what he got teed up for? It was Shannon coming in transition, and Kisei gives him a little bump as he hit his gather before he put the shot up, kind of put him off balance, misses the shot. Underwood was furious. It was almost identical, slightly different because it wasn't in transition, but the quote-unquote foul was very similar to what CJ Wilcher had at the end of that game, where you get him just a little bit in the body as he gathers before he puts the shot up. My problem with the officiating is in the first half, you don't call that on Kisei, where he gets him slightly on the body as he gathers and puts him off balance, and you call it on Wilcher at the end. And I think there's a 95% chance in my mind that the referees had that Underwood tech in the back of their mind whenever that game got close at the end. Whenever Nebraska's down 10 with 3 minutes left, you remember Underwood blowing up on you in the first half. Oh, maybe he has a point here. As Nebraska starts to crawl back into that game, I don't think it's a coincidence that those calls started going towards Illinois. Not for any sort of malice from the referee's point of view, but because, you know what, the home crowd, as much as you don't like to say it, it influences the decisions of referees at times in split-second moments.
Doesn't influence the good ones, but we're still in search for those. And
you have Underwood in the back of your mind blowing up on you, and there were some reports on the court that the refs ended up doing some cussing towards Underwood's way in that moment. All that weighs on you in the final moments whenever Illinois has got a 10-point lead, and here comes Nebraska coming all the way back. All of that is in the back of your mind. It might not influence your decisions directly, but it's in the back of your mind whenever you get to the key moments in a late game moment.
Don't be bad some of the time or none of the time. Just be bad all of the time.
You can't tighten it up in a close moment because the game's close.
Can't. You can't change how you are. And they were. Listen, you expect that going in, but Illinois got away with a lot last night.
I mean,
Nebraska.
Kisei was getting damn near assaulted coming off of every screen by Terrence Shannon.
And that's how it's been. He needs to adjust to that. And Nebraska tried to be physical, The zone got stops, but it also allowed more rebounds because you can't get a body on folks. We need to raise our hands about being a couple of voices that contemplated, do you bench Kisei? Well, go ahead and give us both double birds, Kisei, because
we deserve it.
Yeah, you were phenomenal last night. You were incredible. You were composed. You were on a mission.
And he wasn't a net negative on the defensive end. He wasn't a positive, but he was at least all right on the defensive end.
He took there's one bad shot, but for the most part, Nebraska did everything but win. Now, the other part of this, and Dolman said this, so I'm going to give him credit, but it really resonated. Nebraska played as confident as you've seen them play on the road. Mm-hmm. They got out on some of these lesser teams, air quote lesser teams, that they didn't beat, right? Because they just kind of threw up all over their shoes. This time they had response. They were confident. They were poised. They weren't afraid of the moment. And they took that with them, that confidence, from Wisconsin. Now they've got to rally and rebound and kind of channel that disappointment against Northwestern, who's really struggling right now. Anonymous checks in. Illinois had one personal foul called in the first 15 and a half minutes of the second half. As aggressively as they were playing, I would consider that to be questionable at the least. Right. No, I mean, it was very difficult for Nebraska. Moonbot checks in. Dion says, what's up? Brandon's in as well. And Anonymous says, Elijah's much too charitable. Give him another 30 years of watching this garbage, and he'll be realizing these screw jobs are intentional. Listen, and this is what the rest of the Big Ten probably doesn't like about Nebraska, but it has been eerie for a long time. It's been eerie since T.O. retired. It's been eerie since Bill Moose and Scott Frost came to Lincoln. It's been eerie with just scheduling. It's been eerie with Nebraska on the road for football. It's been on the road. Nebraska's been their own problem on the road for football. But in some cases where the games have been actually well played or better played, you don't get a call at the end. A lot of times in Madison, Xavier Betts gets lit up at the goal line. Jordan Westerkamp lit up at the goal line. Some no calls in the red zone. That's similar to Rink Mast needing to physically bleed at the end of overtime to get a whistle.
I just want to throw in here.
That's the fan mindset, though. I'm not wrong.
I know the fan mindset, but I'm going to come at you from the umpire's perspective. I know some people who are much higher level than me. I'm not going to claim myself to be the expert here with my high school baseball officiating. I'm not the expert. I know a lot of people though that have done high level officiating. You do baseball, basketball.
You do reffing because you love the game. And the money doesn't hurt. No, you like.
That's where I'm going.
You like to get paid. Your motive for doing it is because you love the game and you want to be a part of it. You don't go there because you need back pats. And there are some officials in this world that are power trip guys.
But I think the vast majority of them,
the good ones, are unfortunately roped in with those knuckleheads that are the power trip. Worship me, I control your outcome.
I'd agree with that somewhat, but I'd say the vast majority of guys out there, and I don't know these three officials, don't know them personally, don't think I remember any big screw-ups in their history of officiating basketball. Nothing stands out.
Don Daly, Paul Zeal, and Owen Short.
Yeah, see, those names don't ring a bell to me, but unlike your Kelly Pfeiffers out there.
Right, where it's going to be 7 reviews the last 5 minutes because we need more TV time.
I'll just say most officials out there are doing it, A, for love of the game, B, to get a little extra money in their pocket, whether it be bar money or a new nice diamond necklace for their wife.
Or
girlfriend.
Or both.
Mistress. I'll just say that those are usually the two main motivations people get into. I don't think people are out there getting on the court saying, oh, we got Nebraska Day. It's our perfect chance to screw them over because they joined the Big Ten 12 years ago and we still don't like them. I don't think that's actually happening. But I think these people are humans that let crowds affect them. They let coaches affect them. And I think we saw the result of that yesterday. That's what I'll leave it at.
Well, and Tiger Shark dives in. Tiger Shark Diver dives in. Did you guys see the last play where Illinois guys stepped 6 different pivots? That was quote tweeted today. And Domask, is that his name?
Yeah, Domask, the guy who was...
It's like, yeah, traveling. I got away with one. I mean, he was doing the full foxtrot, brother. And no whistle there. And, they kept possession in a 3-point overtime game. So here's the reality. Nebraska fans are riding this roller coaster. The team didn't ride a roller coaster last night. They came in and played as well as they did to get a win on the road against a ranked squad. They played up and they went every inch with Illinois. So I think that's encouraging if you're a Nebraska fan. The thing is the trust factor. Have they turned a corner or can they keep it up? Or was this just a moment where they carried some momentum actually from a monster home win to go on the road? You're still fighting with the tournament and a down Big Ten where there's not going to be 8 spots for you in March. So if you're a Nebraska basketball fan, every opportunity counts. This would have put you in if you don't screw up at home the rest of the year.
There's one more factor here. Maybe Fred Hoiberg ignoring the sports scientist was all that this team needed to get over the hump.
Well, we'll see. More thoughts. We'll hear from Fred, and Hail Varsity continues.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
So we'll check in with Connor Clark. Connor, of course, winding down his college career, and he's done it in less time than Tommy Boy. Pretty impressive for Connor Clark. He was on the road in Champaign last night for KRNU. It's a college radio station that Elijah was a part of, I was a part of, Cranack was a part of. We love it. College of Journalism and Mass Communication in Nebraska. Proud of what they have going for sure. And Connor was on the road doing the radio play-by-play of it last night, so he was there at the scene of said crimes. We'll get to more of your comments, more of your thoughts on Nebraska basketball. We'll get to some Super Bowl takes. We'll talk Rex Burkhead. Keona Wilhite, come on down. Well, nothing officially yet, but there's some smoke for Nebraska. Charlie McBride's on the way. Let's hear from Fred Hoiberg. This is a little bit longer cut, but Fred's take on things last night, cut 1, his reaction to how things went down, and Nebraska almost got it handled on the road.
It's who they are. They're 12th in the nation in offensive rebound percentage. And, I thought at times we did a solid job, but not enough in the second half. They pretty much dominated it physically in the second half. And you find a way to get some of those rebounds. Maybe it doesn't come down to that last possession, but, I'm really proud of the guys for the resolve that they showed tonight. As I told them in the locker room, now we know we can do it. And you're playing one of the top teams in the country on their home floor in an unbelievable environment. And you have a chance to win. You have a lead with under 5 seconds to go in regulation, even though we got out-rebounded by 17. And that's the theme for us. We've talked a lot about taking care of the basketball and rebounding. And when we do both, we generally win. When we take care of one, we're in a close game like we were tonight. If we get beat in both and we turn it over and give up offensive rebounds, we get it handed to us. So, we got to find a way to turn up the physicality. I've talked about this a lot. When teams start getting on us, getting the offensive rebounds, they just seem to, it just goes in the wrong direction. So, proud of them. They showed a lot of fight. What had nothing to do with effort. I thought our guys played extremely hard, and when you're down 10 on the road with under 4 to go, it's tough to come back. But we scored 11 in a row. I think 11-1. Unfortunately, the one was the one that sent it to overtime. But again, we showed we can do it. Just got to clean some things up and turn around. Another quick turnaround. I don't know. It seems like we played 100 games. I mean, we play every 2 days. So we got to get ready for a tough Northwestern team on Wednesday night.
So Fred is all class. Fred's a pro. And Fred, again, if you got him over a beer and sat him down, is probably not going to ask for that type of officiating again. But he owns where they were deficient, and that was the offensive glass, right? We hit on it. He started off with that. He didn't whine or complain. I don't think it's... I look into the comment of, well, we had the lead with 5 seconds left. And he's right. He's pointing out a fact. He doesn't need to go into my sixth man of the year got absolutely screwed on a phantom call. And he is so mild-mannered. It's not that he doesn't get boisterous or voice his opinion. The guy's not a robot, but he just picks his spots. And even with some of those home games at PBA, there's been some just a-hole calls, just airhead misses. And no one's going to be perfect. I get it. But, man, I mean, for him to be as demonstrative with some of these last home games, and then you go on the road, dude, I'd have been tossed. I had been absolutely tossed within 15 minutes of that ball game.
Something I want to note here is he called Wilcher's call a phantom call. I wouldn't call it a phantom call based on the rule book. I would call it a phantom call based on how the game was called.
How the game, yeah, that's
based on how the game was called. Yeah. Phantom call. Sure, I just want to make sure that's clear. We're not. There was contact, but compared to what else was called during the game,
really there wasn't contact. If we're talking comparison.
If you're talking comparison compared to other things that went uncalled.
Which I am.
Yes, okay. We can go there. And that's why, like, if Fred went and got himself, went full Chris Collins and got himself fined after that game because he decided to go.
Look at that. And that's another glaring example of Big Ten officiating.
I mean,
look at him go nuts. Chris Collins, dude, is a lot like Fred when it comes to being calm.
And I mean, even Underwood's a psycho.
I know.
We all know Underwood's a psycho. They made light of it on the broadcast last night.
He looks psycho.
Man, Underwood hasn't picked up a tee this year. That's the first tee he's picked up all year. Do you not
Is there a bonus in the contract?
Refs do their preparation before they come into these games. Do you think they don't know that Underwood hasn't picked up a tech all year long? They're going to know they're the first people to give him a tech. And that's kind of what I'm saying here with Fred to go scorched earth. I'd give him a full pass if he's getting a fine, because people know your reputation. They know you don't go scorched earth. And they know
you pissed off Hoiberg. You were awful.
Exactly. Exactly. That's in your mind. That's in the ref's mind next game whenever Nebraska's on the road against Northwestern. Hey, we got two coaches here. We got one that just got ejected, and we got one who just got fined by the Big Ten. I guess they both could have gotten fined. You'd have that in the back of your mind as an official and go, hey, we need to be on top of our game here.
You know how bad, I mean, think if, like, Fred would be, think for him to go nuts, like, seeing that. It's happened probably before. But for him to lose it and start throwing stuff, like that crazy look in his eye, oh, my God, we're all going to die, Fred's going to lose his mind. That would be a sight to behold, to see Fred absolutely lose it.
Because of how out of character it'd be.
Yes. It'd be scary because you don't see it. You see him kind of pacing around the sideline, arms folded, and you can see in his face and his eyes. He'll wear it on his sleeve, the frustration.
Also, if Fred picked a moment during that game to lose his mind, I think the last 5 minutes in overtime may have been officiated differently.
I mean, he'll kind of put his hands together or point or walk closer to the officials, and you get more flies with honey. Totally understand how he goes about it, and above all, be better at rebounding. But also be able to get some calls if you are trying to box out, and it's piggyback time. Someone's going over your back and climbing over you to get an offensive rebound with no call.
And I'll say, as an umpire, if I have a coach that's always been nothing but nice to me my entire time umpiring for him, and he goes nuclear on me once, sticks with you as an official.
It's not only the timing of it, but this guy's not been in my grill that often. I mean, it has more of an impact that means more. Last thought from Fred here on Tominaga.
Hey, listen, the people were up in arms. What's going on with Casey? He had 2 games where he didn't make shots. He's too good of a shooter. He's too good of an offensive player for that to last. And, he came out and really got it going for us. I thought he missed some blockouts in the other end. Got to be better there. It's a tough matchup. When Casey's matched up with Guerrier at 6'8", 6'9", you just got to go out and seek contact. I thought our zone gave us some good possessions, but we just stopped rebounding out of it. And they had to go back to the man. But, it was, again, a good effort, and it was good to see Casey get it going again.
Tiger Shark Diver says, I had to call my psychiatrist last night. That's not far off, because that's the mental state of a lot of Nebraska basketball fans wanting to help will this team into a tournament. Jim asks, doesn't Fred have to keep calm due to his heart condition. I think there's probably some health factors in there, but just above all, the demeanor's a good demeanor to have. Connor Clark will check in via the video stream.
Hey, I'm not supposed to eat French fries because of my gut, but I still do it sometimes anyway. You know?
Sure. No, I get it. I get it. We'll switch off to a little football here. A couple of points to make. And one, Keona Wilhite, that four-star rush end that's able to leave Washington with DeBoer's departure. It looked like UCLA was the team. You've had more and more news about Chip Kelly trying to find an OC spot in the NFL. Is it Kingsbury? I get the former Texas Tech quarterbacks confused.
Kingsbury, he's the one who is off to Washington.
He's to Washington, but it sounded like he was going to
go to Las Vegas.
Go to Vegas, yes.
Which now leaves an interesting opening there. Whether it be Holgerson, which I haven't heard the name float around, but Chip Kelly's name's been floated around because it sounds like he might be wanting to get out of UCLA. It sounded
like Chip even inquired about Iowa. I'm not kidding. Like, just get me the hell out of having to recruit.
Talk about a match made in hell.
Oh,
well, Kirk Ferentz and Chip Kelly.
Or it could have been that Iowa defense with a run game that is returned to prominence. Anywho, look, there's not a lot of stability right now with UCLA. It doesn't feel like. And Wilhite, I think by Wednesday's rule presser, will be or should be in with Nebraska. And maybe there's an announcement to come from him.
I mean, when Terrence
in the near future
hops on Twitter with his boom gif,
right.
that means within short order a defensive line commit will be announced.
Right.
That is the indication. If you guys are not out there, the people who are listening are not on Twitter, now known as X, Coach Knighton put a gif on Twitter that was
pot
just
roast
boom.
is sending smoke signals.
It was just boom. And when that happens, that means there's a defensive line commit coming within the coming days. He has heard something that we haven't heard regarding a commitment. That's what it means. He put that up this weekend. Most likely Wilhite. I think you could probably look at Jalen Williams as well, but that'd be pretty early in Jalen Williams' recruitment to lock it in. But Nebraska has been heavy on his heels.
Sure.
All I know is in the coming days, Nebraska will likely have another defensive line commit in the class of 2024 with Wilhite, 2025 with Williams. Those seem the most likely candidates, and really when you compare the two, Wilhite seems to be the most likely candidate.
Dion wants a 2-hour rule presser. I don't know how long it's going to go Wednesday at 11, Dion, but we'll be there, and we'll rewind it for you. Last thought here, Rex Burkhead, thank you. Thank you, Rex Burkhead, for what you did for Jack and the Hoffman family. Rex Burkhead, thank you for making your time at Nebraska just a ton of fun to cover. You were awesome. You were awesome. You and Amir in that backfield, you were big-time offense.
Let me add, Rex, thank you for Ohio State 2011.
Yeah, you and Levante. I mean, that's the Rex Burkhead-Levante David game where Rex took over, hit the R1 button, and kind of jump cut his way into the end zone on a swing pass that looked doomed. The mother of all football comebacks. So Rex has hung it up. Retirement. We are out to Rex for Super Bowl week. Rex, of course, is making his announcement today that he is retiring from the NFL. We talked to Rex last year about this time with Super Bowl and, of course, the Team Jack Gala that's coming up here in February to continue to raise funds and awareness for pediatric brain cancer. So Rex is just the best dude ever. Rex was. We were downtown in the old Haymarket at an ice cream place. It was me and Mama and Junior. And Junior, I think, was maybe 4 or 5. And there was this ice cream spot we were at that had a staircase that went up to a second floor. And Junior was watching Kangaroo Jack and said, "Hey, I'm going to jump from here." Well, he jumped, and I think he landed and was caught by Burkhead. Rex was there with his girlfriend getting ice cream. He's like, "Schmidt, what's your kid doing? He wants to fly into the end zone like you, Rex." But just the best dude ever.
10 years from a 6th-round pick. Wow.
Connor Clark's with us next on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Charlie McBride on the way, and we'll check in with Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker, and NFLer. Got to echo here. Better now. Wonderful. Connor Clark is in Chicago, buried for the upcoming Northwestern Nebraska game. He'll be on KRNU with that. Connor was on hand last night. Connor, sights, the sounds, the officiating, the Nebraska effort. Take us through your adventure last evening, and what a ball game.
Yeah, I mean, great college basketball game. I think it exceeded my expectations, certainly, and a lot of Husker fans' expectations as well. I really admired the group's, resiliency, their fight down the stretch. They could have easily rolled over when it was a 10-point game with about 3.5 minutes left. I personally thought that Terrence Shannon Jr. 3 from the corner was a dagger. Clearly it wasn't, because they ended up forcing overtime. But, yeah, great game overall. Obviously, you could go back and forth about the officiating. I think people Yes. I think people watching on TV have more of a gripe about it than I do, just because it was a little bit harder to tell from my vantage point at the State Farm Center. But certainly a couple of things you could go over. But overall, I mean, if you're a Nebraska fan, I think you're not too upset about it, because it was a game that could have gotten away from you at multiple moments. It didn't. They forced overtime. They gave themselves a chance to win. And Tominaga put on arguably a masterclass for him as well. So that was great to see him break out after a couple of tough games for him.
Are you going to go to the refereeing, Connor, and how it was officiated late in that ball game? My take is this, and I've kind of talked about it in a roundabout way. Nebraska had plenty of opportunities that wouldn't have involved the refs, whether it be better boxing out defensively so you don't give Illinois as many second chance points. A better decision from Tominaga late to not put Rink on that island 30 feet from the rim with Terrence Shannon closing down on him. You get a better possession there, so you don't have to put it in the ref's hands to call a foul. But at the end of the day, I think some decisions from the referees did swing the result of that game. Is that a fair assessment from what we saw last night?
Yeah, I think you could point to a couple of moments. Obviously, the foul at the end of regulation against Domask, people are upset about that. Probably a little bit soft. There was a travel that was certainly missed against Marcus Domask as well. He even tweeted about it, saying, yeah, I might have gotten away with one there. So that tells you all you need to know. Another thing that I had a big problem with was the dunk that was thrown out of bounds, and it was called Illinois ball. Everybody in the stadium obviously wanted a foul because you're in Illinois. I believe it was Rink. He was straight up, and it was either Guerrier or somebody else going up for the dunk, and he cocked it back, and Mass was straight up, jumped straight up, and he cocked it back to dunk it and just kind of threw it out of bounds.
Yeah, and it was off Nebraska.
Yeah, apparently. So that was one that was, iffy. There were a couple other ones, the steal that wasn't a steal by Sam Hoiberg in the corner. That was another one, but I agree with Elijah's first point. I think you still, if you're Nebraska, you gave yourselves plenty of opportunity to win that game. I mean, there were some costly turnovers, an unneeded heat check by Tominaga early in the game that turned into a big swing for Illinois, a couple of costly turnovers later in the second half. Again, Nebraska did what they did to keep themselves in the game and give themselves, quite frankly, a chance to win. But I could totally understand why people are upset about a couple of calls there.
And, we're commenting and relaying the comments on the Stream Hail Varsity YouTube. Subscribe there. Connor Clark on the road covering Nebraska basketball for KRNU, and did the play-by-play of Nebraska-Illinois last night on the radio. He'll have Nebraska-Northwestern. We'll check in Evanston with Connor Wednesday as well. But as many missed opportunities as Nebraska had, the fact that they get whistled with 5 seconds left and they have the lead, there's a strong argument for the thing being taken from Nebraska. This wasn't 1994 Missouri-Nebraska bad, but this was all around awful. And the bigger picture is we've had a lot of instances with officiating, not just with Nebraska and last night, but you had Coach Collins get launched and then fined. You've had some really poor officiating this year for the Big Ten, and people have been bitching and moaning about it forever on Twitter, and it's been about every fan base. The Big Ten fans aren't unified for much. I mean, you have your common teams you dislike, but there's been a real fervor against the officiating this year.
Yeah, I feel like Big Ten officiating has kind of always had that, stereotype, for lack of a better term, of that they've been subpar. And this year you mentioned the whole Chris Collins thing. And I mean, I was listening to a couple of podcasts about that whole situation, and they were looking at the box score, and the people on the show were like, well, we don't really judge the officiating performance based off of free throw discrepancy, but how could you not in that one? 46 to 8. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. So I think Chris Collins had every right to be upset about that. Obviously, an all-time ejection from him. A lot of people had a lot of issues with Wisconsin and Purdue earlier on Sunday because it's all comes down to how do you guard Zach Edey, and
what are you allowed to do to the Giants?
Yeah, right, because he's bigger than everybody else. So a lot of people have problems with that, and a lot of Purdue fans have problems with how some people do guard Edey because they feel that it is also illegal, and then obviously last night you have a couple of missed calls, a couple of things go against Nebraska, obviously a foul call with less than 5 seconds when you have the lead. I mean, that's just kind of a really tough spot to be put in, and overall, yeah, I mean, everybody's got their issues with some sort of reffing crew, and I feel like the last couple of weeks really haven't served Big Ten stripes very well.
Well, the artist formerly known as KG Kids for Life, hate for officials and having your signals stolen by stallions is the only thing that unites all of the Big Ten, except UM.
Can't argue with that.
It's been rough.
Connor, as we look ahead to Wednesday with Northwestern, I guess the best way to put it is, can Nebraska replicate that road performance? Was that a flash in the pan, or do you think they found something?
I think they found something because when you go back and watch the Maryland game, I mean, it looked like they had no resemblance of an offense whatsoever. They didn't run any sets. They were settling for shots, most of which were deep threes, and they were hitting them early in the game, but that's not sustainable. I think against Illinois, they played a legitimate basketball game. They ran some good things offensively. They stepped up defensively when they needed to. That switch to a zone in the second half kind of messed up the whole rebounding system that they had going on. You saw Juwan Gary get a little bit visibly frustrated down the stretch because Nebraska struggled on the glass. But overall, I think that gives you as a fan confidence about this team playing on the road. I know they still haven't won, but they gave themselves a real shot to against one of the better teams in your league. And I thought they played a pretty complete 45 minutes. I mean, they were maybe one or two plays short from winning that game. So that gives me confidence going forward. I think the game on Wednesday night is going to be a really, really good one. Both Northwestern and Nebraska have played back-to-back overtime games heading into Wednesday night. So that's going to be really interesting. Nebraska only trails Northwestern by a half game for fourth place in the league, too. So there's a lot going into this game. So I think last night gave you confidence as a Nebraska fan, and really the team, that's saying, hey, even though you lost in overtime, you overcame some pretty difficult hurdles in that game, and you put together a pretty solid 45 minutes.
Connor, we'll check in with you Wednesday. Thanks again for jumping on, and appreciate the call last night, and thanks for giving us some insight on site in Champaign.
Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you Wednesday.
All right, there he is, Connor Clark. Hail Varsity winds down Hour 1. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, podcast where you can find us if you want to rewind or on your timeline. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity Radio. Subscribe. We appreciate you doing so there, and give us a rating, good, bad, ugly, and we'll take the feedback. The Hail Varsity YouTube channel, subscribe and like, not just what we do in the afternoon, but of course Hurrdat Sports in the morning, and all the content, press conferences, interviews, and then all the other social platforms with TikTok and the Instagram account. I mean, just awesome content with Hail Varsity. Twitter can find the show at HVarsity Radio. Find Elijah on Twitter at Herbal Essence. Find me, Chris Schmidt, at Schmidt_radio. Reminder to get buckled up, hands on the wheel, eyes focused straight ahead. The driver has one job, that's to drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. So I was all foam and no beer with my want to drive to the sports book and put heat down. We were kind of tongue-in-cheek, jokingly, Nebraska's on the road, so
I hope no one took my advice and bet the mortgage.
You know what to do. Well, did you ever get? Listen, I know it's revisionist, but did you ever get these gut feelings as I'm finishing up at the gym and getting ready to go to the bar? I'm like, I think Nebraska's going to play well today. That 10.5 is what's also crazy is like our Friday forecast. We were right on with our point spread predictions before the point spreads. How about a side hustle? We'll put points out there.
Chris and Elijah, Vegas handicap.
Right. But I just had kind of a gut feel that they'd play well. And even when they got to 10, it was impressive for Nebraska to close on that run where they got stops, they got rebounds. The thing that I think this team can morph into these final few games is a team that really focuses down and can get stops and make some plays. It's a want-to thing. They're capable of doing it, but it takes a lot of energy and focus. And it's that way across college basketball and football, frankly. Is the same team going to show up every game? You want consistency, and that's what coaches swear is the difference between your playoff teams, you're uber talented and you're deep, but from a personality standpoint, they're the same team every game, and that's so rare in college ball. It's rare in sports.
Can I throw some cold water on this really fast, though? Just this whole thing with Nebraska yesterday, it wasn't perfect. Like, let's not act like this is a performance that...
It was a lot better.
It was a lot better, yes. It was a lot better, but they went up against the Illinois team. Illinois ran a clinic.
By comparison, it looked damn near perfect.
No, Illinois had a clinic at the end of that game on how to blow a lead. It was like how to blow a lead in 5 easy steps.
They didn't make shots.
Pass up open shot. They passed up a whole bunch of open shots to run the clock, which you get, but then you're missing front ends of 1-and-1s. You're not taking advantage of your trips to the line. You're sloppy with the basketball. Illinois tried everything they could to blow that basketball game.
They had 15 more free throw attempts, though, dude.
And I get that. I get that. But it took a Herculean blow-it type effort from Illinois for Nebraska to get back into that. It was better, but let's not act like that was the performance that is like, yeah, Nebraska should win all their road games from here on out. There's still a lot of problems.
Nebraska made as bad as Illinois was. Nebraska also made some plays down the stretch.
It was an improvement.
Illinois is a team that is good enough to get to an Elite Eight with their athleticism and talent, but they may be lucky to get to the round of 32 or Sweet 16.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Hope you're doing all right. So we'll run down Charlie McBride, Mr. Blackshirt, get his take on the Super Bowl and some spring football topics as Nebraska is still in their winter conditioning phase. David chimes in on the stream. A lot of basketball thoughts and talk. Nebraska's NCAA tournament starts Wednesday night. You can't lose a game at home like the women did to Rutgers. You are amen, absolutely right, David. Nebraska has some winnable and losable games. You'd think they'd hold serve at home, but you got to go get this one, I think, Wednesday at Northwestern to keep in good standing with the tournament, with where you're at. And right now you're one of the last few teams in the dance. Let's welcome in Mr. Blackshirt himself, a Monday with Charlie. We say hi to Coach McBride as we kick off the Blackshirt Hour. Coach, how was the weekend? Thanks for a few minutes today.
Oh, it was good. Last night I watched the game, about jumped out of my chair a few times.
I knew it.
That basketball's getting to me, I think.
I don't blame you. We were talking before the top of the hour here. I was like, I wonder how Coach McBride handled last night, and well, how did you handle last night? I know you said you just about jumped out of your chair, but Elijah's been better than me. I've been beating up the officials a little bit, and I don't like to do that. I mean, there were things Nebraska should have done better, but there were some real horse bleep calls or no calls?
Well, the thing that got me, I don't know why it did, but I was watching the TV, and they had a timeout, and they scanned back to the Illinois bench, and the Illinois coach was there, and all of a sudden the official comes over and holds his hand up next to his mouth and whispers in his ear. I figured, well, that guy's got points. So anyway, I thought, the one thing is I always look at it probably different than some people. I look at it, how hard they played. And they played hard, and to me, that's all you can ask, and, I'm kind of, the numbers of wins and losses sometimes, it doesn't mean a lot if your kids are just going like heck all the time. And, after they had a couple of real thinking spells there for a while, I was kind of worried about them, but I think they've got to know each other better and practice together more. And now I think I think they get better every time they go out. So we'll see how it goes in the end, but I know they're trying hard.
Well, they did a great job of being resilient. They played confident, like they played as confident on the road as they did at home, and that's been an issue. They weren't perfect, but they didn't play. They didn't look the same, to your point, like they have in some other instances with Maryland and the way they got beat at Rutgers. They still get whacked on the rebounding, but that's just something they're going to have to keep working on. And Coach, you know football, but I think you know enough basketball as far as loving the sport. That's the work in progress, isn't it? Trying to toughen your guys up. I mean, and that's just it. This team's tough at times. Can they be tough all the time?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do, that there's a lot of guys that are really tough, but when they don't know exactly what they're doing, they're thinking a lot of times, and they take the toughness out of their system for their thinking. And, they can't just turn it loose and really play with tons of confidence, but that's what I'm seeing. They look more like a kind of like a smoother basketball team. It doesn't. At first, when we started the year out, we were doing okay, but we looked like we were playing street ball almost. Mm-hmm. And now they know each other, and I think each week with practice, and I think Coach said something before that he really had some tough practices and more than they've been, during the year, and I know that's probably helped a little bit, not to, because there's a lot of guys that come in here that have never done that before. I don't care if they go to a junior college or a high school or whatever it is. A lot of guys don't know what a hard practice really is, and I know for a fact that at Michigan State, he put football gear on them, with shoulder pads and helmets. It wanted them to be tough, and then they went and practiced. And they stoned each other for a while. I mean, I don't know what they went through, but I know that he did that.
It's Charlie McBride with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. We talk Husker basketball. They're toughening up. And coaches, you talk about toughening up. How do you as a coach, this isn't just pertain to basketball, but really any sport, in a season where everything that can go wrong has gone wrong on the road. It's looked bad. You finally have a chance to win one, and then you're either a couple plays away, maybe a couple calls away from getting a win. You don't get it done. How do you keep that positive as opposed to letting this team get negative and get down on themselves? Because that's the two directions you can go from that.
Yeah. I think with the basketball this year, it's just been confidence and with each other, not really knowing each other as players. These guys, like I said, most of these guys play together year-round. And, these guys haven't had that chance, and that means a lot. I mean, I've said 1,000 times, it starts in the weight room, and the players have to decide how good they want to be. Coaches can push you and yell and scream and do all that stuff, but they have to really want to do it, and that's where I'm thinking they're starting to get, everybody's starting to know each other, to feel responsible for each other. And that's kind of what you have to go through with young people. And so that's why I've always kind of started them out kind of. They probably think I'm a little bit wacko when I'm hard on them, and I want to see what they can handle, and I can tell just by watching them what kids can do what in certain situations, and pretty soon some guys you can yell at and some you can't, and some it's just. And there's certain things that turn on certain kids that, and you got to know what buttons to push. And I think that's where the coaches are starting to learn too. And so, to me, that's confidence in each other. That's, and it's a brotherhood. And if you get one or two guys that don't want to do what everybody's doing, they can break the brotherhood up pretty easy. I mean, it's easy to. It's hard to build something. It's easy to tear it down. And I think they've all gotten to a point where they learning their roles, as a basketball team, they're learning their roles a lot better. And the coach is learning a lot about, what kind of roles fit these kids. And, I mean, you hear him mentioning that all the time, that he changed his role or he did this or that. He's found out that he fits in a better situation. So, it goes like a thermometer back and forth, but when they get to know each other, they're all on the same page.
Coach,
helps.
Excuse me, Coach. Going to ask you about the Super Bowl. It's Charlie McBride, a Monday with Charlie, and it's San Francisco, it's Kansas City. The Chiefs are trying to get back-to-back in their third Super Bowl, and Chiefs defense, Niners offense, and, of course, the two quarterbacks, different stories. Are you excited about Sunday? Do you think this will be a classic?
Yeah, it'll be a real good game because I think that they both, I think the confidence and the quarterbacks, especially at San Francisco, have really improved over the year, and that's what happens. You get enough practice or playing with guys, they make you better, and that's what's happened at San Francisco. He's feeling a responsibility to what he has to do for the rest of the team, and not worrying about, I'm going to make a mistake or something like that. You can't do that when you're a great team. You got to just play. And all that other stuff comes naturally. I mean, you have, when guys fumble or when that happens, it's because somebody did something on the other side that was exactly right that made you do it. And that, it wasn't it wasn't like you were intended to or weren't prepared for something like that. They all try as hard as they can, and especially in this game, and you can tell the difference. You get in the playoffs, everybody says the same thing. Boy, wait till you get to the playoffs. Why aren't you playing like that all the time? It's my question. How come you're not, playing like this all the time? And you say, well, just during the playoffs or whatever, what's the deal? And so right there, they're telling you that their mindset is different sometimes. It's those guys that want to keep going are the guys that win.
Well, Charlie, the saying has been out there for a long time. I want to get your thoughts on it. I'm sure somebody else will say it this week. Maybe I'll just be the first. Offense wins games, defense wins championships. You've seen that with the Chiefs, especially this year, where their defense has really stepped up in the postseason, has carried them to the Super Bowl. The 49ers have had a great defense for a long time. I think if you look at it right now, you might give the advantage based on how they've played recently to the Chiefs' defense, despite the 49ers' defense stepping up when it's mattered the past couple games. Do you still think in modern football, though, that saying holds true, that offense wins games and defense wins championships?
I don't think so. A lot of times I think the defense just hangs in there and the offense is really exceptional, then you win. I mean, that you can see that. That's been our case sometimes. You see when I was coaching, and no matter at what level you're at, you can always climb that ladder when it comes to, but winning is a not a sometimes thing with your players. Winning is an all the times thing, and so if you can get them to play as hard as they can play, and they get beat, and they're playing as hard as they can, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Now the fans you're gonna get it, okay? I mean, you're gonna get it, but again, it's all in the mind. I think a lot of times, and how you feel about your brothers, that you're playing with. You don't want to let them down, and I don't know. It's a crazy thing because a lot of times with each team it's different. But I'll tell you one thing. The one thing I do know is if they don't score, they don't win. So that's the way I look at it as being a defensive coach. I mean, if we lose like we lost at Arizona State 19-0, well, we had a bad day on offense. You hear Tom saying, well, what about us? We stuck the joint up because we gave 19 points. And giving people 19 points nowadays the way to throw the ball isn't a bad deal, but it wasn't good enough. And it wasn't all the offense. I'll guarantee you that.
Coach, going to wind down and get your thoughts on Rex Burkhead. He retired today. Rex is 10 years in the NFL, great career in Lincoln, and a nice recruit out of Plano, Texas. I think you remember Rex, and what a ambassador for Nebraska and beyond.
He's tougher than a box of rocks, too. That sometimes isn't good. I mean, I coached Mike Webster, and he was, of course, the first one they really found out about CTE and that kind of thing. And, those are the things I always worry about, guys that are running backs and, they're banging around all the time and been that many years in. You just hope everything's going to be okay for them in the future, and he's the kind of guy that is, a lot of times I think the word loyal is hit the bricks, but he's one of them that is, a loyal person, and he's that kind of a player too. He plays for his partners, and that's the thing. I think when he gets done and really sits down and thinks about it, he's going to think about his teammates before he thinks about himself.
Totally agree with you. And he is from his mentality from a bygone era. I mean, it was cool to watch him play in Lincoln. Got a prediction for us at all, San Fran or Kansas City? Where are you leaning?
I'm leaning. I hope Kansas City wins, I guess, but because I've always kind of been a little bit, living close. A little favorite to him, but it's always, it's always good to see somebody else have, enjoy the best part of their career. And I'll be happy if the 49ers win. I mean, I'm not going to go around and moping because Kansas City didn't win, that's for sure. But, I feel pretty even on it. I mean, as far as just, I don't say, I won't be sitting in my chair on pins and needles.
No, you'll enjoy the moment.
I'll enjoy it.
Enjoy the game.
More probably.
I like it.
If the Kansas City wins, I'll be happy, and if the 49ers win, I'll be happy too.
Enjoy the game, but more importantly, enjoy some wins.
I think the 49ers probably are really about ready to pop. I mean, it's about, they've had a little bit of an on and off year, but I think that they've got the people that can do it.
Coach, we'll check in next Monday with some thoughts. Thanks for the time today.
Okay. Good talking to you.
Good to chat, bud.
Not knowing. Talk to you later, guys. Thanks.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity. The Blackshirt Hour commences. Jay Moore with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer. Find him on Twitter at JMoore44. And you see him on Big Red Wrap-Up during the Husker football season. Jay Bird, I think you just got whistled for a foul. How are you doing? Are you able to cope with a little hoops drama last night?
Man, just... going into it, you knew it was going to be a tough task. Obviously, they struggled playing on the road, but then a really good basketball team in Illinois. Things got off to up at half. Good start. Things kind of get away from you a little bit there in the second half. Some rebounding issues that we've seen all year kind of rear its ugly head, but they battled, man. They fought and they battled. They get that late bucket to Mass there, a nice little post up. Bank shot in there, and boom, then another ticky-tack foul called on Wilcher. And a lot of what's funny is, as we were chatting just before, it seems like Nebraska had everything done to them, nothing would get called. But then as soon as Illinois, anything little, they reviewed a flop. I mean, essentially when it was towards the end of the game, and Alec, reaches out his arm and a box out, clearly just is across the chest, and the guy just flops. They don't even call a foul, but they check it for a flagrant one. It's like, what are we doing here? I mean, Casey absolutely gets taken down to the ground on an over the back that should have been called. That wasn't called. I mean, you could argue that Mass and getting stripped. He took off his right arm, getting stripped there. So, I mean, there was a lot of calls, and I think, Underwood getting that tech early in the game kind of might have set the tone for how that game was called. But you got to love the fight. You can't ever count them out. Being down as much as they were to Wisconsin and being down 10 late in this game too, and they find a way to battle back, going 11-1 run. And Casey had a nice bounce back after struggling against Wisconsin. C.J. Wilcher, who kind of was the guy to go to in the Wisconsin game, didn't have his best stuff. But the nice thing is guys are stepping up when they need to step up. And they played well enough to win last night, and probably should have got the win. But, you still are looking for that one road win. I did see that, even though with a overtime loss, whatever, I can't remember if it was the net rankings or whatever it is, I saw they did, they bumped up, a few spots as well. So some good can come out of that. I think they're going to get some wins. They're going to have to get some wins because really no one left in the schedule is ranked. And it's kind of on the bottom half of the Big Ten. So they have to continue to play hard, play solid, because you can't have a lapse now at this time, in February, these last, 7 games they have left to finish this thing out strong and hopefully secure yourself, an at-large bid in March, and at least get a night or two off in the Big Ten tournament too. We've been in those early play-in games, and you have no chance. So love the fight. Got to continue to play hard and get yourself. You'd like to think 6 more wins would be the ideal number to shoot for to finish out February and March.
Yeah, Jay, you kind of hit on it. Is despite everything from yesterday afternoon, from the refereeing, the same old issues still hurting Nebraska, with issues boxing out all the offensive rebounds for Illinois in the second half and overtime. It's the same issues, but despite the disappointment, I think Husker Nation probably feels better about this basketball team today than they did going into that game yesterday, because they still have the same old issues, but at the end of the day, a couple calls go your way from the refereeing crew, which we spent a lot of time back in hour 1 talking about, but a couple calls go your way. You get 1 or 2 more shots to fall. You're walking out of Illinois as a winner. You get your first road win. I think that's why Husker fans feel better today, and that's why the rankings kind of reflect that as well. It's a complete departure from what road performances have looked like. It's been some embarrassing road performances. It hasn't been that they've been losing on the road. It's how they've been losing on the road. And if Nebraska were to lose all their games on the road like they lost last night, I think the story of this basketball team would be completely different. That's why I think Husker Nation feels better today than they did yesterday.
Yeah, most definitely. Obviously we want them to win, but you just go back a week and a half ago, or even last Saturday. The performance against Maryland was a joke. I mean, just absolutely pathetic. And it's the tough part is those type of performances off of outstanding, really, really good performances at home. You know, you have a really good performance, you beat Purdue, you lose poorly to Iowa, you beat Ohio State at home, and having ranked Mass one of them as, best nights of his career. Then you lay an egg at Maryland, and then you play well at home and beat Wisconsin, and you think, oh, let's see if history can repeat itself. And you think, oh, they should have, they should get blown out by 20. Well, they don't. They battle, they fight, they find a way. Guys step up, make plays. Obviously, the rebounding is an issue. Wasn't a huge fan of them switching zone at that time of the game. Just zone's already the hard defense to rebound in, to get out of. And you have a team that already struggles rebounding on the road. But sometimes you got to make a move. And I'm not obviously I didn't play basketball at that high a level, but you kind of wonder that move and just the rebounding issues they have in the past. But listen, all in all, it's overtime loss, 3-point loss. I mean, Illinois is favored by 10, I think, before the game. So they battled. If they can somehow find the wins, the good out of this, and not to get too down, it could be a pretty special finish to this season.
Jay Moore's with us. It's Hail Varsity Radio, Blackshirt Hour. Some thoughts on hoops. You saw Nebraska play confident, and as confident as they play at PBA, you saw them play that confident on the road against number 14, a projected 3 seed. Let's see if they play angry and composed Wednesday against Northwestern. Jay, we'll get to Super Bowl thoughts as it is Chiefs and Niners in a moment, but guy that we covered and I know Elijah watched growing up, hangs it up after 10 years in the NFL. Want to spend a minute here on Rex Burkhead. And, Rex, a nice thank you tribute on social media. 4 years with Cincy, 4 years with Coach Belichick in New England. Still remember that AFC overtime touchdown he got on a counter for New England's last Super Bowl berth. You go back a few years, they did that in Arrowhead on the road. It's like 4 degrees. And then 2 years with his home state Texans. Then he hangs it up. What's Rex to you as a fellow former Husker?
Yeah, just like I've met Rex maybe once or twice. He was, my last year was 2006. I think Rex got there in 2010-ish, around that time. But just a hard worker. If you had daughters, a guy that you'd want to marry your daughter, that's just that good of dude. And his efforts and involvement with the Team Jack Foundation will always stand out. And that's kind of what he's been able to help out and taken that to. But obviously a fantastic football player. Came in from Big 12 into the Big 10. I just think of that first year in the Big 10, getting that win at home against Ohio State and Rex having a huge night. But obviously just parlaying that into a great NFL career because, listen, he wasn't a surefire first round guy. And honestly, just the stereotypes, right? A white running back does not usually work well for a guy in the NFL, but he makes it work, and did a heck of a job playing, and just sticking with it. Had started off early at Cincinnati as a special teams role, and then eventually continues to play the special teams role, but gets with the Patriots, and then finishes out his career with the Texans. And 10 years, man. I don't care what position or whatever you get to double-digit years in NFL. That is impressive. That is very, very impressive. Everything that he did, and he definitely deserves it. And I know he's going to enjoy retirement and get to see his kids and play sports and do all those things that he probably missed out on during the fall. But just a hell of a career, a hell of a Husker, and happy for him that and the best thing is he was able to go out on his terms. I was not able to go out on my own terms. I was A lot of guys that play in a professional sport, sometimes you have to retire even though you don't want to, because you don't have any more options, right? And either you're not good enough or you're hurt or whatever it is. He was healthy, and he was able to kind of finish on his own terms, and that's a great accomplishment for Rex, and how he's able to finish his career.
Jay, I think the best Huskers all have their own nickname. You got Johnny the Jet, the Sandman, Touchdown Tommy, Sexy Rexy, I think, firmly belongs on there on the nickname hierarchy. Your thoughts, what Husker moment is going to stand out in your memory as being the defining Rex Burkhead moment? You have the Team Jack moment, amazing. The comeback against Ohio State, Rex Burkhead scoring that touchdown. Well, what moment to you stands out as being the definitive Rex Burkhead moment at Nebraska?
Gosh dang, I had mentioned, I think that Ohio State game, and we got, Nebraska got to a slow start. Gosh, who was the quarterback at Ohio State that got hurt? Number 5.
Braxton Miller.
There you go. He got, rolled up his ankle. You think Levante David forces the fumble, then Rex gets those 2 touchdowns late in the second half, gets a little swing pass, makes one guy miss, runs straight in, from a Taylor Martinez pass. So I think that instance, I remember, oh gosh, it might have been, middle of last year in the Big 12, the year previous, him throwing a halfback pass, I think, to Brendan Kinney against Colorado, to close out that, the Big 12 era. So a lot of great memories. Obviously, just a hell of a football player, and but I think that Ohio State comeback and him just solidifying everything with those late second half touchdowns will be what always pops in my head the quickest when someone mentions number 22 Rex Burkhead from Nebraska.
Another one that flies under the radar is Iowa State 2010 overtime. Rex Burkhead scores the game-winning touchdown in overtime. That's another one that stands out. Probably not at the top for me, but I'll always remember that one as well. Schmidt, you got one?
Well, that game was so dicey.
Yeah.
Where Hags got to pick off a 2-pointer in the end zone.
I mean, if you remember, Nebraska didn't have Taylor Martinez that game, and Rex Burkhead really had to step up and put that thing away.
This is kind of an underrated Rex moment, but we're talking screw jobs to start the segment here, Jay, with officiating. And I go back to the old, remember the Titans officiating crew that found their way onto the field at A&M when Nebraska lost that game 9-6 in 2010. And it was a 9-6 game. And then you had 15 penalties. Bo's losing it. Bo's trying to pierce Taylor Martinez's, shoulder pad chest plate on the sideline, and all the while, there's old Rex running wildcat. It's like 3rd and 70, and they run Rex out of the shotgun, out of the Rex cat, and he rips off a 35-yard run to get him out of the end zone, and they end up kicking a tying field goal. I don't think he had a great game, but he had some plays in his home state. It was between Nebraska and A&M, and in a defensive just slog fest that ended up 9-6 and kind of a hose job. Rex was super big because you were a mess at quarterback. You're not moving the ball at all. Your passing game's slim to none and slim left town, and your defense is balling out. So that A&M game, I mean, the goal line play where, Rex is running it, and he just kind of got a couple of great blocks, creased it, and willed his way into a big first down that allowed Nebraska to tie the game. I'll always remember that game, and just figure out how, or wonder how, Bo and Carl didn't end up in jail afterward because they were so irate. I mean, they had murder in their eyes.
Yeah, that was I forget about that game, and I forget that Rex. They had to lean on him so hard.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah, there was the Taylor Martinez drama, then obviously the poor officiating, that whole Ben Cotton issue.
Yeah, Ben's getting turn your head and cough.
We're talking assault with the Nebraska game last night. That was jail time right there on the field in Texas A&M game.
Jay, let's go to the Super Bowl. You've got the quarterback discrepancies where Brock Purdy has all the weapons around him, and he's handled it well. He made a lot of plays in that NFC title game. And then you got Mahomes, who is He's got him and Kelsey, right, and Pacheco and some new names, but it's not the juggernaut offense of the Chiefs. It's been their defense. So you got the quarterback matchup, and then you got the Chiefs' defense versus that Niners offense. How excited are you about Sunday, and what do you think shakes out?
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a game. I mean, doesn't get much better at Super Bowl in Vegas. First time there, and but it's going to be a fantastic matchup. I just think the interesting thing is how well I don't know if it's gone underneath the radar, but everyone obviously wants to focus on Mahomes and Kelsey. But the way the Chiefs defense has played all year long, no one scored over 30 points on them this year. I mean, that never happens. And in past years where they couldn't stop anyone, you just hope that their offense could score 35 points, and it just completely changed. The Steve Spagnuolo defense, I know we've talked in depth about him on here before, but his ability to get the right guys, and then you're able to have great players, Chris Jones and the rookie out of Purdue. He's had a hell of a year, but just a way to kind of mesh that all together. And it's really just been, that stretch where they lost a few in a row. Wide receivers were an issue. Kelsey was banged up. Pacheco was banged up. But now that they kind of get everyone healthy, they kind of got it figured out. And it's not I wouldn't say high flying, but it's just more traditional. You just see them in more, you don't see as many jet sweeps, fly motions. It's like, we're just going to line up on the football here in multiple tight end packages, and we're just going to run the ball at you, and we're going to play action off of it, and we're going to try to control the clock a little more because our defense is damn good. And it's just been vastly different from all the years in the past. And I think, in that stretch where they struggle, they're just trying to figure it out still. And they're like, you know what? Let's not overcomplicate it here. Our defense is too darn good not to utilize and lean on. So let's lean on them for once. And I think they made that decision. And it's suited them very well in the playoffs because the way they play, to be able to go and get those road wins back to back. I mean, you have to control the clock, own the time of possession, play defense. Their special teams are always really, really good. But it's going to be a fantastic matchup. If San Francisco kind of figure out their defensive issues, they've gone off to slow starts defensively, and just in the first half in general, team-wise, because I just don't think if they, if it's 14-0 going into the second quarter, I don't know if they can come back from it because Kansas City's defense is that good. You cannot get off to a slow start. I think that's kind of why you saw the Ravens panic just a couple weeks ago because the Chiefs come out and boom, 7-0. And they're like, this hasn't happened to our defense all year. And you just kind of panic and try to do something you haven't done all year. So I just don't think the 49ers can afford to get off to that slow start. If they do, it's going to be back-to-back for the Chiefs. As much as I don't want to see that happen, I'd love to see San Francisco battle and get one finally, in kind of a rematch of the Super Bowl just a few years ago. So overall, it's going to be a really, really good game. Just kind of feels like I said, if the 49ers can get off to a good start and don't put themselves behind the 8 ball, I think we got a fantastic football game.
Jay, as I look back to this season, I was one that doubted the Chiefs a lot. But now that I see it in the postseason, they've been the best team in the postseason, I think, by a large margin. And it's because they have, as you laid out, a better running game, a better defense, the things that allow a team to really find consistent success in the postseason. The Chiefs remodeled themselves, made themselves better. And it wasn't perfect in the regular season, but they hit their stride in the postseason. But despite all of that, the 49ers, according to Vegas, still a 2-point favorite. Do you think that line is being affected by the Chiefs' regular season struggles? Do you think that line is fair? What's your take on Vegas saying it's the 49ers who are favored, not the Chiefs?
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I guess I haven't looked as of late. I'd take the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are playing, like we just said. You said the Chiefs are playing the best football. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just go on the road in Buffalo and in Baltimore, and you win very convincingly. They're playing the best. I think overall, if you want to probably compare teams on paper, yeah, I think San Francisco is probably the better team, has the more talent, has a better record, but more recency bias, I got to lean towards the Chiefs. I just think San Francisco got lucky. Like I said, the late starts against the Packers, and then against the Lions, they're fortunate to come out of there with wins. They just found ways to win. There's something to that as well. The hard part is too, because all the talent they have defensively in San Francisco, for them to play the way they've done in the NFC title game and in the divisional round, very surprising. They got to get it cleaned up. They got to get it figured out because, like I said, I mean, you cannot have that. And the thing is too is their ability to stop the run has been very, very poor. Green Bay ran the ball on them early. Detroit ran the ball on them early. And the Chiefs' commitment to run the football with Pacheco, I'll tell you what, you can't allow it to happen because they won't stand a chance. So, yes, surprised, but if I'm a betting man, my money's going on the Chiefs.
Jay Moore with his Blackshirt Husker NFL or at JMoore44, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up. Bird, enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll get caught up next week. Thanks for a few.
Yep, sounds good, guys. See ya.
Good to spend some time with Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFL. Our podcast is right there. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play is where you can find the podcast and download the show and tell a friend and subscribe. Hail Varsity YouTube channel.
And also don't forget, when you mention the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, also a place to go to the live stream. If you hear all these people chiming in and you're like, man, I wish I could chime in with this show. Really easy to do. Go to Hail Varsity on YouTube between 4 and 6, even a little earlier if you'd like to be a part of the starting 5. Get in there, hop in the live stream. You can find it under the live tab on Hail Varsity's YouTube page. And you can join in on all the fun on the live stream as well. We have, I think, some more planned for the live stream to try to get them more involved with the show. Really appreciate what they've brought to the show over the past, about 18 months since we started doing the live show. About 18 months since we started doing the live shows online. Really appreciate what all the folks who tune in live have brought to the show. So if you're sitting in there live watching, we appreciate you. If you're sitting out there listening on radio, listening in podcast, you want to join the fun again, that's the Hail Varsity YouTube page from 4 to 6 Central Time. Join the fun, and you can hop in the live chat there.
Shout out, as we do our starting 5, we need to absolutely give a shout out to our friend and listener in the Philippines. RS checks in live from the Philippines. What time is it there, RS, in the Philippines? Would love to know that. And I'd like to visit there sometimes. That'd be cool. Hit the region of the world that is always tropical.
It is currently 7:50 in the morning.
I was asking RS. I was asking RS to give us a time check.
Whoops.
It's all right. Elijah with the spoiler. We'll wind it down, finish out on Monday. Big show tomorrow. Super Bowl week forges forward. It's Hail Varsity, and we're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for spending time. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And we'll check in tomorrow with Husker Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champ Grant Wistrom going to be with us. It'll be good to check in with G-Dub, talk Super Bowl this week, thoughts on the Big Red. And Mr. Searles, our favorite Husker NFL, our offensive lineman. Searles going to be with us tomorrow. Mitch Sherman also checks in. Busy week. Sam Cook will be with us. Stand out with the Ravens. And Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl week commences. Tony Veland for Elijah's Denver Broncos going to be with us this week. And we are out to a few more of those Huskers who've won the big one when it comes to pro football's ultimate prize. Reminder about your friends at the Omaha Supernovas. What an event. What a win on Saturday. You can be part of this first season and witness world-class talent, have fun with family and friends, and get to know the team, and above all, support an amazing sport and movement. Supernovas.com. It's where you log on and can get your single match or season tickets, and that's all the time at CHI when they are in action. So be sure to check out supernovas.com and be a part of just not only history but excellence. And Supernovas have Olympians, they have champions, national champions, All-Americans. And be sure to check out supernovas.com and get your season tickets or single game tickets today. I think, I'm going to look at the weather right now. I think it may be warm enough. Yeah, I think it's warm enough to fire the grill up tonight, Elijah.
I mean, it's a beautiful week all around.
Yes, it's going to be fantastic. Low to mid 50s, 60s. Yes. So I think it's time to go get a steak.
My concern, I really want to fire up the smoker for Super Bowl Sunday. 41 degrees. Not perfect. It'll do, but just not what you're looking for. It's going to take
a long time to get the old smoke rolling.
Yeah.
I've tried that, and this goes back to early morning. It was a crisp September morning. And the Michigan-Nebraska game in 2018.
Oh, yeah.
That bludgeoning. So we had a whole house party of folks over, and I had brisket I was going to do. And the sad story is the brisket was done in the oven, which was fine. It was good. But the smoker just would not cooperate because it never got above like 38 till noon.
I was going to say, even if it does get like up to temperature, like a 12-hour brisket's now a 15-hour brisket because it's going to be losing heat.
And I suck at brisket. I mean, I need my mother to make it, or I need to go to Jaybird's for it. Those are the two spots in town to go for brisket that aren't, run by barbecue insiders.
To what we need this week, we need to get in like a personal
we need to get in
chef.
we need to get in 18 too. I mean, it's like we're putting a list together.
But like with this show, we need to get in like a private chef to come put together a Super Bowl menu for us.
It's easy, bro. You do
like buffalo chicken dip, classic. I need to have a buffalo chicken dip. But other than that, I'm negotiable.
You smoke wings, or you air fry wings, or you oven your wings. You crock pot them and then you oven them. There's 100 ways to do wings.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to be in Omaha for the Super Bowl.
Well, that'll be good.
So
I might try to keep it low key this year. I mean, like myself, my roommates, maybe.
When's kickoff? Is it the 4:30?
Probably 5:30. That's what we've been the last couple of years. I don't actually know off the top of my head.
Well, hang tight. Good stuff this week. Podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity. Powered by Cornhead Lager. Back at 4 tomorrow. Thanks.